Heels is about the Duffy Wrestling League. Some small towns have football. Duffy has indie wrestling. It's what everyone does on Saturday night.
It's their release. And I would say that's what wrestling is for a lot of people. It's just another wonderful form of entertainment.
These people in this town have really real struggles, but they're just amplified a bit because they're on a stage as well.
So they built us a wonderful stage. We call it the Heels Gymnasium. Everyone's body has gone through a bit of a transformation.
Training for the show has been actually fun for me. I think the fans will be excited to see the wrestling, actual actors doing a lot of their own stunts.
I've really learned to find a real joy in wrestling, so I'm excited for every match to do whatever ridiculous stunts that they ask me. No question.
Well, we have an incredible stunt team. These guys are just unbelievable. I'm just happy I'm not doing it because I couldn't get up from half the moves.
After doing this for God knows how many months, there is nothing fake about this.
Look at these guys in the ring. They're unbelievable. They look great. They look like pro wrestlers. They're pulling off these stunts.
You're gonna see superplexes and people jumping off the ropes. There's a giant fight in a car wash, which is really exciting.
You really don't know what's gonna happen, but it's gonna be loud and things are gonna break.
It's taking you inside the wrestling ring in a way that you've never been before, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes that's just as compelling as what you're seeing there in that ring.
It's smart storytelling that they've done on Heels.
You're bound to see yourself in one of these characters.
It's going to be amazing.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joe Otterson, senior TV writer with Variety, and it is my distinct pleasure today to bring you this panel for the Starz series Heels, presented by Lionsgate Television. The 8-episode first season of the show is going to drop on Sunday, August 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And of course, since this is a show about pro wrestling, I am wearing my best pro wrestling t-shirt today in honor of Roddy Piper, because just when you think you've got the answers, I change the questions. But rather than hear me ramble anymore, let's get to our panelists. First and foremost, we have series creator and executive producer, Michael Waldron.
Hello.
Up next, series showrunner and executive producer, Mr. Mike O'Malley. Next up, we've got a series star. He plays Jack Spade, Mr. Stephen Amell. And of course, he plays Ace Spade, Mr. Alexandre Ludwig. And then up next, we have the one and only Mary McCormack, who plays Willie. Next up, we have, he plays Wild Bill Hancock, Mr. Chris Bauer. Then we have Kelli Berglund, who stars as Crystal Tyler. We have Alison Luff, who plays Stacy Spade. We have Mr. Alan Maldonado, who plays Rooster Robbins. And last but most certainly not least, we have Mr. James Harrison, who plays Apocalypse. All right. Well, everybody, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I've seen the first few episodes of the show. I absolutely love it. I think fans of pro wrestling and people who aren't fans of pro wrestling are really going to get into this one. But first and foremost, I wanted to ask the cast, who among you was the biggest fan of pro wrestling prior to joining the show, and why was it Stephen?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to answer that?
It's yours.
So let's find the second biggest fan. That's more interesting, I think.
Okay, yeah. So who was a big fan of wrestling prior to joining the show? Or were any of you fans before joining the show?
Well, I'd say Waldron. Waldron was probably also the biggest fan too, like creating the show.
I was a big fan. Yeah, I really wanted to be a wrestler, but I unfortunately am not built like one. So I settled for writing about this stuff instead. Chris Bauer, you're a big wrestling fan. I know. Our first meeting. I mean, I don't know, dark horse candidate for a huge wrestling fan and a huge indie wrestling fan, correct?
Yeah. This shoe fit pretty tight, I have to say, because I was a wrestling fan. I am a wrestling fan. but in particular the regions and the smaller sort of indie outfits. And when Michael and I met, I think we talked about the show for about a minute, and then the rest of breakfast was about wrestlers and indie wrestling. And it was, it really got me excited, I have to say, because he knew what he was talking about.
And anybody else a fan or like had any kind of interest in wrestling prior to joining the show, or maybe you developed an interest in wrestling after joining the show?
Well, I mean, it was me living out every 8-year-old fantasy that I had in the living room, wrestling, jumping off the couches, and just kind of reliving that moment anytime that I got into any particular match or any like stunts or anything. Like, I always thought to myself, like, the 8-year-old Alan, make him proud. Like, this is me actually having the opportunity to live out what I fantasized as a kid. So that was really what was special as a wrestling fan and now being a part of this show.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously, wrestling is incredibly physical. And so I'm wondering, what was the training like going into it? Did you guys have to go through a wrestling boot camp in order to get ready for this?
Yo, James, you talk about training, James.
We had to go through a little bit of training. To be totally honest with you, I think it was a little bit easier for me because, I had played professional football for, 15 or 16 years.
We played football.
We played football. He likes to lie about that, but I'll let him get away with it right now. But the thing about wrestling is, a lot of people want to say it's fake. I mean, about the outcome, but the actual physical nature of hitting the mat and getting up and hitting that mat again and making sure, that you don't
are being hit by James in hitting that mat. Don't forget that.
That was 1, 2, maybe 4 or 5 times. I mean, you got to get over that.
Times? Are you serious?
You got to get over that, So the physical nature of it is real. It's 100% real. I mean, you're putting your body on the line. I mean, ask Stephen, you do something wrong, something happens,
Yeah, it's not jumping off your couch onto cushions. It's a wooden board, and it gives a little bit in the middle and not so much at the edge. Ask my back.
Then Michael, so most people who are familiar with wrestling nowadays probably imagine, places like WWE, AEW, these companies with these big, national presences that sell out these big stadiums. So then why did you decide to set this show in this small town and this particular like small town wrestling league?
Well, I mean, I think that even the big promotions like WWE, it ultimately had humble beginnings, but before it grew into an empire, it was a bunch of regional promotions that were ultimately unified under Vince McMahon and everything. And so I was excited to explore. It seemed impossible, the idea of building a modern wrestling empire now. And because that seems impossible, I think that makes it an exciting kind of story to watch. That's what Jack and what our characters are struggling up against is they've got big dreams that seem impossible, but they're not daunted by those odds. And so really, starting them, at the bottom of the ladder and giving them giving the audience the chance to watch them climb that ladder, I think is really fun.
Mm. And then a question for Michael and Stephen. So Michael, of course, recently created the Disney Plus show Loki. He's also worked on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Stephen, of course, is well known for his time on Arrow. So just given your pedigrees and in your opinion, what has more complicated storytelling, superhero content or professional wrestling?
Wait, can we just wait till the time travel? You don't know there's not time travel in this.
Is that coming up in season 2? That's exciting.
Season 2, yeah.
I think what I like about this show the most, though, Joe, is that regardless of the world is so exciting. But what drew me and I think every other actor on this screen to the script is the characters, and it's about people wanting more. And the world is an incredible world, but it's all these complex characters living in small town Georgia, trying to make a life for themselves, and dealing with the complexities that come with everyday life, just trying to make it work. And all these characters are so damn rich, and all of these actors that are around me are so talented. I mean, I've never been more excited for people to see a show.
Nice. Yeah, and for this next question, Mike, I want to start with you, but I want to then open it up to everybody. Like Alex just said, I mean, one of the great things about the show is you really get a sense for who these people are outside the ring. And I think the show captures very well the idea that what happens outside the ring very much informs what happens inside the ring in a lot of cases. And so I'm just wondering, why was it important to show that kind of like both, you know, the fun side of everyone, you know, the storytelling, but also the dark side of what feeds into the storytelling inside the ring?
Well, I just want to, you know, reiterate that the world that Michael created is, you know, what he's showing and what these actors have portrayed with these characters are that people are in their lives. They have creative impulses. They have things that they want to do. They have ambition. They have yearning, and they want to go do those things. And even if it doesn't seem like it can be as big as something like the WWE, to them in this town, just like anybody who's in a play at a small town at a local theater, or is in a band that is going and playing their first show or their 10th show at a local music venue, the approach that they bring to their work has incredible effort and passion. And to them, it's like they're opening on a Broadway show or having a big premiere, or they're on the big stage, you know, like, you know, James is at the Super Bowl. There's guys who, you know, are playing in a high school football game, and to them, it's the most important thing. And so I think what's interesting about this story that Michael's created is that you have these characters who want to do these things. Yes, they have ambitions to maybe take it someplace else, but their task is to make it as great as they can and to be so passionate about what they're doing right now. And sometimes when you're super focused on what it is that you're trying to create and do, that can take your attention away from other things that you should be doing. Being a good father, being a good mother, being a good husband, being a good wife, being a good friend, because you're so caught up in trying to make something out of your life, trying to make it mean something, and make it seem bigger, and make it seem all worth the struggle. So how those two things, you know, intertwine, that's what I think is so rich about this show.
Mm-hmm. And then for whoever wants to answer this one, I guess for the people who weren't necessarily fans of wrestling going into the show, what was the biggest misconception that you had about it going in? And then what do you think is something that people who aren't fans, you know, who just tune into the show for the first time will really enjoy the most about it?
I was never a fan. I was never a fan of wrestling. I mean, my little brother was, and he would sort of get on the top bunk and, you know, dive on me and say, "I'm Jimmy Superfly Snuka." Am I saying it right? Is that right? Jimmy Superfly. And then he would dive on me. So that was my only experience with wrestling, really. But when I read the script and sort of met the world, I just was so taken with it in the way that I was taken with Friday Night Lights. Similarly, like it felt like wrestling was a way into this family drama. And for me, that was really exciting. I mean, I remember when my husband he was a huge Friday Night Lights fan, and said, "Oh, you just have to watch it. You have to watch it. You have to watch it." And I was so annoyed because I was like, I don't care about football. Sorry, James. I was like, I'm not going to watch that. And he said, "Please just watch one. And if you don't want to watch anymore, you can get out." And so I watched one and then became like a shut-in, you know, I mean, I stopped parenting and seeing people and all that. And I hope that's what people feel like with this show, because I certainly have no experience with the wrestling world, and I'm in. I mean, I'm in on all these characters and their relationships and their struggles, and that's just what good dramatic writing is like. And so I'm excited about all kinds of people watching this show for that reason.
And I also would add on to that, like the biggest misconception I think I had, like going into it, I mean, is just how much abuse these people take on a regular basis. You know, it was really important I know Michael, when we first talked, and Mike and Stephen, when Stephen and I talked, like that we did this justice. I mean, like the only thing, and James already spoke to this, but the only thing that is predetermined is the storyline. But this is a full-on stunt performance. I mean, when you hit the mat, you hit the mat. And these guys use and abuse their bodies on a regular basis with no help from anyone else. They're traveling carnies. I mean, it is insane what they put themselves through. And it was so important to us that we did that justice. And so much so, I mean, to our detriment a little bit. I mean, there was some big injuries on this, and I'm so proud of the way that this ended up turning out. I think the show is spectacular, and I think people are going to absolutely love it. And you're going to see some of our really, really incredible female characters also enter this world, you know, and deal with what it would be like to be a woman in such a male-dominated industry. And I think that we kind of explore every single thing you could expect in this world, and that's why it's so rich. And I mean, I couldn't be more proud of this show.
Well, that segues very nicely to my next question for Mary and Kelli. Given that your characters do exist in this very like male-dominated world, I mean, and the inside behind-the-scenes aspect in the DWL, what was that like diving into that? Like, what was it like for you to explore those characters in this very kind of strange world?
James touched on this earlier and Xander mentioned it as well, but for me, I think the most transformative experience was just the physicality of it all. There's so many layers to the world of wrestling, and my character Crystal dips her toe into it. And like Mike said earlier, she cares so much about this league and all of the people in it, and succeeding as a wrestler. She does what she can to get by, even though she's not probably given the opportunity that she should have right now. But just the training in general, and a glimpse into that whole world of just fitness and challenging your body was such a new thing for me. I have so much respect for people that do this. I mean, just the fitness side is one thing, but also the wrestling it's not as easy as it looks, but these people are so great at making it look easy. And so still learning, still growing. And it was pretty wild.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's, for Willie, I think she probably would have loved to have wrestled. I mean, I think it's in her bones, you know, so she was just sort of born at the wrong time. But she, you know, like Kelly's character, you do everything you can just to stay in the world. She was a valet and then moved into sort of a managing producer role. And I just think she eats and sleeps and breathes it. There's nothing else she sort of is good at. You know, even like the other parts of her life are sort of more of a struggle than being in the gym, you know, being with those guys. So I love that. I thought that was a really sort of nice, nuanced, complex part of Willie's character. And I mean, I think it's a little interesting too, just to watch Kelly's character sort of push those boundaries a little more. It feels like, you know, for years when I was coming up in film, there were no women directors. You know, they were script supervisors. So they were Willie's sort of the script supervisor. You know, she's got the stopwatch and the ruler and that binder, and she knows exactly what's going on. And, you know, she would have loved that shot at wrestling. But I find that an interesting thing to play. I like that. That was complex.
And then for Alison, following up on that, I mean, your character is unique in the show in that you're not directly involved in the behind the scenes, you know, makings of the DWL, but obviously you're very much involved given that your character and Stephen's character are married. So, I mean, what was that like for you playing that? And I mean, just kind of having to be, you know, on the outside looking in at, again, this just kind of, you know, this carny world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I love this script and I was drawn to it because I feel like all the women in this world are kind of the underbelly of how this community and how these people in this industry even work. You know, without Stacy, Jack wouldn't be able to function on the level that he functions. Without Willie, the DWL would not function. And without Crystal, Ace would have zero confidence and it just wouldn't function in the same way. So I'm drawn to the fact that all the women are kind of the unsung heroes a bit in this world and kind of the heroes that don't wear the capes. That's why I'm drawn to it.
And then for Stephen and Alex, I really love the relationship between your two characters. You play brothers, but I mean, there's not a lot of love lost between you two and when we begin the show. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that relationship and kind of where we meet your characters here in the beginning.
Go ahead, man.
Oh, no, after you.
Jack is his brother's keeper. Straight up. He is, as you've seen the first 4 episodes, he's thrust into a situation that he didn't necessarily ask for. And he doesn't, he's doing his best, but he's not necessarily wearing the hat perfectly. I like Jack because the way that he treats Ace leaves a little bit to be desired, but that's just, it's real. You know, that's how he feels like he has to do things. And working with Alexander and the chemistry that we were able to generate, I think starting basically at a dinner at Musso and Frank's in March of 2020, 2 days before the world shut down. Everything since then has been great. And their relationship is interesting. It's complex. It's rich. It's faulty, but that's real life.
Yeah, I would say, like, you know, it's, you know, there is real love there, but they're overshadowed by this immense trauma that they've experienced in their father's death, and they're trying to work through it the best they can. And I think it's something that, I mean, shit, even members on our crew were telling me, you know, they've dealt with in some way. And it's just so fascinating to watch. You so badly want them to just hug it out as an audience member, but they're just so stuck in their ways, and so driven by external forces trying to mask what they really need to deal with other things. And just watching that play out to me was so fascinating. And, you know, Stephen was so kind to, like, invite me over so we could cuddle every night and just, like, kind of create that bond. And
Joe, just so you know, you've seen the first 4 episodes. It gets worse before it gets better.
Oh yeah. And then it's so cool too, because, like, you know, one of my favorite characters as well on this show is Chris's character, Wild Bill. You know, and he serves in so many ways to, like, as, like, how bad it's going to get if they continue down this road, you know, and it's such a rich character as well. So yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible experience.
It's the kind of relationship that you wish maybe you had, like, a time travel device to go back and some of those.
Again, season 2, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of Chris, though, your character, Wild Bill is a lot, shall we say? Because no, he's one of those people. I mean, he's you know, he's a professional wrestler. He started out in the DWL. He went on to the big time. He's kind of been there, done that. But I mean, rather than me, how would you say find him at the beginning? Like, where is he now in his career and in his life?
Well, first of all, I think I like that you describe him as a lot, because
I didn't know what words to use exactly.
That's good, because the trash can method that I have of playing every role will fit into a lot. And it's also something I've heard in the last 14 months, how many people have said, God, life is a lot, you know? And that's Wild Bill. Wild Bill, I said this yesterday. See, Wild Bill is bad weather in a snakeskin suit. Woo! You know, he's the kind of guy you meet and you just hope he doesn't have kids. But at the same time, he is alive, baby. He's alive to the current that keeps this whole world spinning. One of my favorite lines in the entire series is when Wild Bill says, "It's all a ring, sweetheart." And it is the metaphor for life in terms of the DNA of wrestling. It is so performative. What's taking place in that squared circle is a version of the world that's idealized or simplified or politicized, but the audience that surrounds it, I mean, when you guys, you know, the DNA of this show is so authentic because of where Michael comes from, you know, his own personal experience of this world as a fan. And one of the paradoxes is the vocabulary is so fantastic and sort of symbolic in terms of, let's just break it down to face and heel. But the fans are so real and the work is so real. You know, it's just, I can't resist that I love those kinds of contradictions. So, you know, because the margin of error is good. Performance-wise, a guy like Wild Bill, you can kind of drop him into anything and anywhere and he's got something to say.
Yeah, because just in the episodes that I saw, I definitely got some Ric Flair vibes, maybe a little hacksaw Jim Duggan, with the board and everything. So I'm wondering, like, given that you're a big fan, like, what were some like influences for you, like when you're thinking about this character?
Those were two. There was a lifestyle sort of victory to Jake the Snake, and then a devotion to the fans of Terry Funk and a promo style of Terry Funk, taking bumps and living for the pop, which is just me living for entertaining other people. That's where the juice and the money comes from. So, and then the muses, Michael Malley and Michael Waldron, wrote it so explicitly that I didn't make a single choice of how to play this character. I followed the map on the page, and the audience decides, if he's intolerable or a turn on.
And then for Alan and James, kind of on the flip side of Wild Bill, you play two wrestlers who are, they're very experienced, they're veterans, but they never quite made it to that next level. And you really get to play a lot with that, like as we see in the first 3 episodes of the show. So I was wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about that and what it was like playing those characters.
Yeah, it was a journey, man. Rooster is a very complex soul. Just want an opportunity, want a shot, want a chance. As he mentioned in a couple of episodes, he's been doing it for a very, very, very long time. So just sharing some of my personal experiences and just kind of giving him life was giving me life. Rooster is a very determined individual that works extremely hard. So that was something that I could relate to. And just being able to carry James in the gym really gave me a lot of inspiration. Teaching him how to bench press, teaching him how to squat.
Okay, here we go.
It was just a lot of work. It was a lot of lot stress. I was about the craziest it really got for me. James, you want to compliment?
Yeah.
You want
to
tell the world, tell them thank you.
I don't want to tell
say
anymore.
Thank you to me in front of the world. You say
thank you to me in front of the world.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I said thank you to me. Okay.
To me.
No,
cool.
but
cool.
for me, I was playing a character that is more of a mentor, a big brother sort of type person to Rooster, which is actually a lot different because I'm the youngest of 14. I'm the baby of the family, so I'm usually listening to somebody else. So that felt good to to be able to go out there and put that character and bring that character to life. So as far as the gym, I had to drag Alan in there when it really came down to it.
Wow, that's what we doing? You gonna do this in front of everybody? Huh?
I'm just let's put it
that's what we doing. Okay,
didn't want to come in early, and I just really had to shame him, to get him there, and that's, what it came down to. But, my character, he's loyal, obviously to the DWO because, he has been, at every level of it. He's held the belt. He's been at the bottom and, they stuck with him through, his process of AA and, everything else. So he has a different outlook on the DWF.
And then Kelli, I really want to talk to you about your character's relationship with Ace, because we see at the beginning she's a valet who has aspirations to get into the ring. And just in your interpretation of the character, do you think she has like a lot of genuine affection for Ace, or is she really just kind of using him as a means to an end?
I think there's definitely a real love between Crystal and Ace. It's a complicated, sometimes toxic love, but Crystal understands her place. And like I mentioned earlier, she does what she needs to do to achieve the things that she wants for herself. She has really big goals and dreams for herself. She loves the DWL and I'm sure would love to get in the ring and prove herself and probably even go beyond that. But I think she's a really, really strong support system for him, a voice of reason, a shoulder to cry on, someone to talk to just be there, a constant in his life that he doesn't really have. She also protects herself at the same time, which is a tricky thing for her. I mean, she knows what she wants, but I think she does really care about this guy, which is why she's always there for him, his right-hand girl.
Mm-hmm. And then Alice, what do you think about the relationship between Crystal and Ace?
I think it's a really, really beautiful one. Ace is such a freaking mess. It's so ironic. And what I loved about this character is that all of these characters are so complex and so there's nobody is right and nobody is wrong. They're all living in the gray area in their own way. And it's ironic to me that Ace is the face and the hero. He's not the best guy out of that, but in his own head, he's a rock star, and he feels that through sex and drugs and drinking that's going to mask the work he really needs to do, and Crystal is kind of, for him, at first his medication, but as it continues, I think a revelation for him, and he starts to really look inside himself and realize how much more important this person is to him than perhaps he once thought. So yeah, it's a beautiful relationship, and I'd say that for every character. I just think I truly mean this when I say, like, this is one of the most well-written shows I've ever been a part of.
Mm. And then again, look at kind of the flip side of that relationship for Stephen and Alison. Your two characters have been together for a long time. You have a son together, but there's a lot of friction there because of Jack's devotion to the DWL and the impact that has on the marriage, on their family. So I was wondering if you could talk about that, how that devotion to this passion of Jack's ultimately impacts the devotion he has to his wife and to his son.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Stacy as like the queen of accountability. And I think that they're at this place in their marriage. They've been married for about 10 years. They have an 8-year-old son, like you said. And she's kind of at this weird stage in life of she's not a new mother anymore, and they're not necessarily in this honeymoon phase. But that being said, they have this strength that a newer couple like Ace and Crystal don't have. They have this unspoken language between them. And from Stacy's point of view, it's really hard watching someone you love do what they love, and you want to support that, but at the same time there's so much unresolved trauma in this family that Stacy's kind of always put in the middle of that. And she also cares for her brother, brother-in-law of 10 years, her baby brother as well. So I don't know, I love exploring that with Stephen from the beginning. We kind of always had this easy banter, kind of felt like we were married, right?
There's a scene between Alison and I in the second episode where it might be my favorite scene that I've ever shot in my entire life. And we don't say a single word. She just looks at me. And then I slowly resign myself to what I have to do, but she just looks at me. So it's just, I adore working with Alison. It's always been super easy. And I think that, we're doing like a pretty accurate representation of about 10 years into marriage with an 8-year-old kid. And, we're best friends, which I really like.
Ditto.
And it's often been said in wrestling that the best wrestlers are people who take basically like their own personality and just ratchet it up to 11. And so I'm just wondering then, like, who would you say of everybody on the cast, who is the closest to like their personality in the ring or on screen?
James.
Alan.
Alan. Yeah.
Alan.
Yeah.
Chris Bauer is a terrible person. He's a terrible, intolerant person.
Yeah, that was me before I turned 40, for sure.
Yeah, the mullet and the whole deal.
I mean, and Mary too. Like, Mary's not afraid to say it how it is. She's a badass.
But no, that is not true.
But no, you're not.
I'm a delicate flower. I'm a delicate flower.
Delicate flower. What are you talking about?
Like Mamie
roses are flowers too. They got thorns on them. So.
And then finally, everybody, I have to know, just going through here, if you were in fact involved in pro wrestling, do you think you would be a babyface or would you be a heel? And whoever wants to start, please tell me why.
I would. I'd be a heel, 100%. I love when I got to get in the ring, as Jack and yell at the crowd, or, you know, I made it my thing to, we had so many wonderful extras for scenes in the Duffy Dome, but also later in the season. And I would make it my point to just like snatch stuff from them. And I just loved getting food. I loved it. I would be a heel for sure. I may want that a little bit more than I'm prepared to admit.
Yeah, I would be a heel for sure. Because I got the look. I mean, my natural look is just heelish. And then when I actually try to look like I'm pissed, I mean, it's
you're not that scary, dog. I keep trying to tell you. Ain't nobody scared
hold up. Let me get right.
Nobody scared of you. See, nobody's scared of that. Listen, ain't nobody
scared. He froze. Hands went up. What are you talking about? Say whatever I want to. Grab, snatch, push somebody. Just be real disrespectful. That's easy.
Yeah, that was our days in the NFL, man. We got to put that behind us, man. That was we retired.
Wow.
We retired.
Stephen know I'm good. Stephen know I'm good at being like disrespectful. He know that.
They can do it all day. Go and go.
I would be a face so I could turn heel. I'd want to be really beloved and then have a devastating heel turn that like ruins lives and like causes some real trauma for the kids.
Yeah, I'm with Waldron.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm a people pleaser. I'd probably be a face, but I like the idea of a turn.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a heel. I would be a face.
Hey, Michael, real quick, what's the greatest heel turn in the history of professional wrestling?
That's got to be Hulk Hogan. That's Hulk Hogan, NWO at Bash at the Beach comes out. He's the hero. He's every little kid's role model.
Yeah,
comes out and he turns on the good guys. I remember watching that as a kid, and I was like, it made me believe in the devil. And
can I submit to you, Shawn Michaels super kicking Marty Jannetty barbershop?
That's a great one too. Yes, of course. That's and yeah,
you're right.
That's a great one too. But if it's Shawn Michaels, he was kind of a rascal to begin with. We should have seen that coming.
What about Andre coming out with Bobby the Brain Heenan?
Oh, that's a good one. All right,
listen, Hulk Hogan made me damn near cry now. I'm trying to tell you. Like a grown man, like, yeah. I almost stopped watching wrestling altogether. Like, I'm like, it's no hope. They didn't turn Hulk.
Yeah.
If I could say too, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, got him in the sharpshooter, Austin with the bloody face, passed out rather than submit, and then the double
turn.
Very rare, but possible. Anyway, before we get too deep into, we could continue that. Anyway, everybody, that's our time. I want to thank you all so much for doing this, though. I really love the show. I can't wait for everybody, wrestling fans and non-wrestling fans, would like to see it. One more time, everybody, Heels premieres Sunday, August 15th, 9 p.m. Eastern on Stars. Put it on your calendars now. You're really going to love the show. Thank you guys so much for doing this.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, man.